Stop for a moment. Do not scroll. Do not rush past this second. Something unseen has been pressing against your life for hours now, quietly, patiently, with a weight you could not name. That tight feeling in your chest did not come from nowhere. That pause before your last decision was not random. The silence you felt where answers should have been was not empty. It was full. This message is not here by accident. It arrived because you reached a point where gentle signs were no longer enough. Today, January 8, 2026, a line has been crossed in the unseen. What was being prepared in private is beginning to move into the open. That is why things have felt delayed. That is why plans stalled at the last moment. That is why conversations felt unfinished and doors refused to close properly. You were not being blocked. You were being protected. For hours now, you may have felt restless without a clear reason. Your mind wandered back to the same thought again and again. You checked your phone without knowing why. You hesitated over simple choices. These were not distractions. They were signals, layered one on top of another, trying to get your attention before timing shifted. There is a reason this message feels heavy even before you fully hear it. It is because it touches a decision you have been circling but avoiding. A choice that feels too big to name. A truth you sensed but did not want to confirm yet. Listen carefully now. What is coming next in your life cannot arrive the way things currently stand. Something must be acknowledged first. Something must be seen clearly, without excuses, without delay. Not later. Not someday. Now. You have been patient longer than most. You endured confusion quietly. You carried responsibility that was never meant to stay on your shoulders this long. And yet, instead of breaking you, it refined you. That is why the pressure increased instead of disappearing. Pressure only grows where value exists. Behind the scenes, alignment has already begun. Conversations you are not part of are happening. Paths you cannot see are adjusting. What felt like isolation was actually repositioning. You were being moved out of the noise so the signal could reach you cleanly. This is the part many people miss. When guidance becomes urgent, it is not because time is running out. It is because timing has arrived. You were not late. You were being held back until everything was ready. That uneasy feeling you brushed aside earlier today was the moment this message began forming. It was not fear. It was recognition. Something in you already knows what this is about. That is why your attention is still here. That is why you have not clicked away. Right now, the question is not whether something big is approaching. It already is. The real question is whether you will respond while the window is open. Because windows do not close loudly. They close quietly, when people assume they have more time. If you have been seeing repeated confirmations, numbers that follow you, names resurfacing, old thoughts returning with new weight, it is because a cycle is completing. And cycles do not end gently. They end decisively. This is not about fear. This is about readiness. You are standing at a moment where clarity is possible, but only if you stop running from it. Only if you choose to see what has been trying to reach you all day, all week, all season. You may feel emotional for no clear reason as you listen. That is not weakness. That is release beginning. When truth gets close, the heart reacts before the mind understands. Stay with this message, not because you were told to, but because something in you recognizes its own timing. In the next part, what has been hidden will begin to surface. Not to overwhelm you, but to free you. What you thought was working against you will finally make sense. And the reason for every delay will be revealed in a way you did not expect. Do not move yet. This moment matters more than it looks. Stay here. This is where everything begins to connect. What you are experiencing right now did not start today. Today is only the moment you finally noticed it clearly. For a long time, Things around you have been quietly rearranging themselves. People changed their behavior. Situations lost their certainty. Paths that once felt obvious suddenly felt confusing. That was not chaos. That was precision. You were being guided away from something you had already outgrown. Many people think guidance comes as loud answers. It rarely does. It comes as discomfort with the familiar. It comes as a strange dissatisfaction even when nothing looks wrong on the surface. It comes as a deep knowing that says, this is no longer enough, even when you cannot explain why. That knowing has been growing inside you. The reason this message feels intense is because it speaks directly to that inner knowing you tried to quiet. You told yourself to be patient. You told yourself to wait. You told yourself not to expect too much. But the truth is, what is being prepared for you requires honesty before it arrives. Here is the revelation many never hear. Delays are not punishments. They are filters. Everything that could not follow you forward was slowed down, redirected, or removed. That includes certain conversations, certain plans, and even certain expectations you once had. What remains now is what can actually move with you into what comes next. This is why the pressure increased instead of disappearing. The closer you get to alignment, the louder resistance becomes. Not from the outside, but from old versions of yourself that are afraid to let go. Think back carefully. Notice how often you felt an urge to pause right before making a familiar choice. Notice how often something stopped you from repeating the same pattern. That was not hesitation. That was intervention. You are not being asked to do something dramatic. You are being asked to do something rare. Pay attention. What you choose to focus on in the next phase will determine how smoothly the shift unfolds. Distraction will cost you clarity. Awareness will accelerate everything. This is why you must stay present with this message. Not because of what it says, but because of what it activates in you. The moment you fully understand what has been unfolding, relief replaces confusion. You may already feel it now. A quiet sense of, this explains a lot. If this message is resonating with you, let that be known in your own way. Let others who need this moment find it too. Sometimes sharing clarity is how it multiplies. And if you are new to this space, staying connected ensures you do not miss what unfolds next. What is coming will not be explained once. It will be revealed step by step, exactly when you are ready to receive it. Something important is approaching a turning point. It involves a decision you thought could wait. It involves a truth you sensed but never fully faced. And it involves a version of you that is stronger than the doubts you have been carrying. Do not rush ahead. Do not drift away. The next part will show you why certain doors stayed closed, and why that was the greatest protection you did not realize you had. Take a breath. And stay with this moment. What you are about to understand changes how you see the past few months. Those doors that refused to open were not mistakes. They were answers. Each delay was placed exactly where it needed to be, not to deny you, but to keep you from stepping into something before you were ready to stand fully in it. You were protected from rushing into an outcome that would have limited you. Here is the truth that shocks most people when they finally see it clearly. What you thought you were waiting for was actually waiting for you to change first. Your patience was not ignored. It was measured. Every time you chose restraint over reaction, clarity over impulse, silence over noise, you aligned yourself more precisely with what is now approaching. That is why things feel intense. Intensity appears when preparation meets opportunity. You may have noticed something else too. People who once felt close became distant. Conversations that used to flow became strained. This was not loss. It was separation of paths. Not everyone can walk with you into the next phase without slowing it down. This is where many hesitate. They try to pull the past forward with them. They try to keep old versions alive out of comfort. But comfort is not where growth happens. And what is being prepared for you requires space, not clutter. That sense of pressure you felt earlier was not a warning. It was momentum building. Momentum feels uncomfortable right before it breaks through. You are closer than you think. Closer to clarity. Closer to movement. Closer to seeing why everything unfolded exactly as it did. The unseen alignment has already reached its final stage. What comes next will feel sudden to others, but to you, it will feel right on time. If you listen closely, you can sense it now. A quiet confidence replacing confusion. A calm replacing the urge to overthink. That is your signal. Do not doubt what is unfolding just because it took longer than you expected. Some things take time because they are meant to last. Stay present. Stay open. In the next part, the purpose behind this moment will become unmistakable, and you will understand exactly what role you are meant to step into next. Stay right here. This is the turning point. There is a moment in every major shift where clarity becomes unavoidable. You have reached it. That is why this part feels different. The energy has changed. The questions are quieter now, and the answers are closer. What you are stepping into was never meant to be forced. It was meant to be recognized. Behind the scenes, something reached completion. A cycle closed without noise, without announcement. That is why you did not feel celebration. You felt stillness. Stillness is what arrives right before movement becomes permanent. Here is the revelation few are prepared to hear. What is coming toward you is not new. It is aligned. It matches the version of you that learned patience. The version of you that chose integrity when shortcuts appeared. The version of you that kept going even when results were delayed. That version is the one being met now. This is why sudden clarity is appearing. This is why your priorities feel sharper. This is why distractions feel heavier than before. You are being refined, not tested. If this message is stirring something inside you, that reaction matters. Let it be expressed. Let your presence here be visible, because awareness multiplies when it is acknowledged. Others who need this exact moment will find it through that signal. And if this is the first time you are hearing something that finally puts words to what you have been sensing, staying connected ensures you do not miss the next layer. What unfolds next will require understanding, not guessing. Do not underestimate how rare this alignment is. Most people receive clarity after the moment passes. You are receiving it before action is required. That is an advantage disguised as intensity. The pressure you once felt is dissolving now. In its place is certainty. Not loud certainty. Quiet certainty. The kind that does not need approval. What was delayed is now released. What was hidden is now visible. What was uncertain is now aligned. Remain present. The final understanding is closer than you think. Do not rush past this moment. This is where understanding becomes personal. What is unfolding now is not about chance or coincidence. It is about positioning. You were moved into this exact moment because something important can finally meet you without resistance. That is why the noise faded. That is why clarity arrived quietly instead of dramatically. Here is the truth that changes everything. The struggle you thought was slowing you down was actually shaping how strong you could stand when things began to move quickly. Speed without stability would have broken what is coming. That is why time stretched. That is why patience was required. You were being prepared to hold something bigger than what you originally imagined. Notice how your reactions have changed recently. You pause more. You observe more. You feel less need to explain yourself. This is not exhaustion. This is maturity settling in. When maturity arrives, opportunities recognize it. This is the moment where many people feel tempted to doubt themselves. They ask if they waited too long. They wonder if they missed their chance. But this moment exists only because you did not rush. What is approaching needs you exactly as you are now, not as you were before. If you have felt a quiet confidence growing beneath the surface, trust it. Confidence that arrives without noise is the kind that lasts. It does not need reassurance. It does not seek permission. You are no longer standing at the edge of something unknown. You are standing at the entrance of something earned. Everything you endured without quitting counts. Every time you chose growth over comfort counts. Every moment you stayed aligned when no one was watching counts. This is why the message feels direct now. There is no need for signs to repeat endlessly anymore. Understanding has arrived. Stay present. Stay grounded. What comes next will not confuse you. It will confirm you. Stay still for a second. This part explains why everything suddenly feels close. What is approaching you now is not arriving to test you. It is arriving to confirm what you already survived. That is why there is less fear and more awareness. Fear fades when purpose becomes clear. Here is the shift you need to recognize. Your season of waiting quietly ended the moment you stopped questioning your own worth. From that point onward, things began to move, even if you could not see the motion yet. Internal alignment always happens before external change. You may have noticed this recently. You no longer chase explanations. You no longer need validation. You no longer panic when things go quiet. That is not detachment. That is readiness. When readiness appears, timing accelerates. What once took months begins to happen in days. What once felt distant suddenly feels near. That is why attention matters now more than ever. Something important will require a clear response from you. Not a loud response. A precise one. You will recognize the moment because it will feel calm, not chaotic. Opportunities meant for you arrive without pressure. This is why distraction feels heavier now. Distraction is the only thing that can blur clarity at this stage. That is why your focus keeps returning to the same thought, the same realization, the same quiet knowing. You are being invited to step forward without dragging the past with you. Let go of the need to explain your growth to people who benefited from your hesitation. You do not owe clarity to those who never listened when you were learning. You owe clarity to yourself. What you are about to step into will not require struggle to maintain. It will feel natural because it matches who you have become. That is the sign you have been looking for all along. Stay present. The final pieces are aligning now. Stay with this moment. This is where everything becomes clear without effort. What you are feeling now is not anticipation. It is recognition. Recognition happens when something meant for you finally reaches the same frequency you are standing on. That is why this feels calm instead of overwhelming. Here is the realization that changes the way you move forward. You were never meant to fight your way into what is coming. You were meant to grow into it until resistance disappeared. That growth already happened. Quietly, gradually, completely. This is why old worries no longer grip you the way they used to. This is why fear no longer controls your decisions. This is why your instincts feel sharper than before. You are no longer preparing. You are ready. Many people miss their moment because they expect fireworks. But true alignment arrives without noise. It arrives as certainty that does not need proof. It arrives as peace that cannot be shaken by opinions. You may notice now that the urgency has shifted. Earlier, urgency felt heavy. Now, it feels focused. This is because you are no longer being warned. You are being guided forward. Guidance feels different. It does not rush you. It steadies you. Pay attention to what feels effortless in the coming days. Effortless does not mean easy. It means aligned. What is aligned will not drain you. It will strengthen you. Release the need to look back for confirmation. The past already served its purpose. Everything you needed from it has been integrated. What lies ahead will recognize you instantly. You will not need to convince. You will not need to chase. You will not need to explain. Your presence will be enough. This is the moment where trust replaces tension, where knowing replaces questioning, where movement replaces waiting. Remain here. Let this understanding settle. What unfolds next will feel like a continuation, not a disruption. And when it arrives, you will know exactly why this moment mattered. Do not move away yet. This part seals the understanding. There is a quiet moment that arrives after readiness, and you are in it now. This is the space where intention becomes action without force. Nothing needs to be chased. Nothing needs to be proven. Things begin to respond to you naturally. Here is what most people never realize. When alignment is complete, signs stop repeating. Not because guidance ends, but because confusion does. You no longer need reminders when your direction is clear. That is why everything suddenly feels simple. Not easy, simple. You may notice that certain thoughts no longer return. Certain worries no longer demand attention. Certain people no longer trigger reactions. This is not indifference. This is resolution. You have already chosen, even if you have not spoken it out loud yet. This is why timing feels sharp now. Moments will begin to matter more. Small decisions will carry weight, not because of pressure, but because clarity gives them meaning. Pay attention to what you feel drawn toward without effort. That pull is not desire. It is alignment signaling where to move next. You are no longer being asked to wait. You are being asked to trust what you already know. What comes next will not announce itself loudly. It will arrive as an opening that feels natural, familiar, and right. When it does, hesitation will feel unnecessary. This is the difference between wanting and receiving. Wanting feels restless. Receiving feels calm. Stay grounded in this calm. Let it guide how you respond, how you choose, how you move forward. Nothing about this moment is accidental. You are exactly where you need to be. Remain present. The continuation is already unfolding. Stay with me a little longer. This is where the deeper meaning settles in. What you are experiencing now is the calm after a long internal storm. Not because nothing is happening, but because everything that needed to shift already has. When inner resistance ends, outer movement becomes smooth. Here is the realization that brings relief. Nothing important was ever taken from you. It was delayed until you could receive it without losing yourself. That changes the story completely. You were not overlooked. You were being preserved. The moments that felt lonely were moments of refinement. The silence you questioned was actually space being created. Space for clarity. Space for strength. Space for something that cannot exist in chaos. That is why this message feels steady instead of dramatic now. Drama belongs to confusion. Certainty belongs to alignment. You may notice something subtle happening inside you. You are no longer waiting for permission. You are no longer asking what if. You are no longer replaying old doubts. This is not because answers were shouted at you. It is because you became quiet enough to hear yourself clearly. From this point forward, movement will feel intentional. Not rushed. Not forced. Intentional. You will recognize what is meant for you by how little effort it takes to maintain peace while moving toward it. Let go of the idea that progress must feel heavy. That belief belonged to an earlier version of you. The version you are now moves with clarity, not struggle. Everything that unfolds next will build on this calm foundation. Remain present. The path ahead is already responding to you. Do not drift now. This is where the message becomes unmistakable. What you are standing in is not an ending. It is a threshold. A quiet one. The kind that does not demand attention, but changes direction forever once crossed. Here is the truth that completes the picture. The reason this moment feels calm is because the hardest part already passed. The inner resistance. The self-doubt. the waiting without answers. That phase shaped your perception so you would recognize alignment instantly when it arrived. And now, it has. You may notice that you are no longer searching for signs. You are noticing outcomes, small confirmations, subtle shifts, responses that arrive without effort. This is how alignment shows itself when it is real. Nothing needs to be forced anymore. What is meant to meet you will move toward you naturally. What is not will fade without conflict. This is not loss. This is precision. You are entering a phase where your choices carry clarity, not confusion. Where decisions feel clean. Where movement feels steady instead of anxious. This is the reward of patience few people reach. Remember this feeling. Not excitement. Not fear. Certainty. Certainty does not rush. It does not beg. It does not explain itself. It simply moves forward. Stay present with this understanding. Let it guide your next step, your next response, your next choice. You do not need to know every detail yet. You only need to trust what has already become clear. The path ahead is no longer hidden. It is open. Stay here. This part anchors everything you have felt so far. What you are sensing now is stability returning in a new form. Not the old kind that depended on predictability, but the kind that comes from self-trust. When self-trust arrives, the world stops feeling uncertain. Here is what matters most right now. You are no longer reacting to life. You are responding to it. That shift changes outcomes quietly but permanently. Responses come from clarity. Reactions come from fear. You have crossed that line, even if you did not announce it. This is why you feel less urgency to prove anything. This is why silence feels comfortable instead of empty. This is why your energy feels contained, not scattered. Containment is power. What is coming next will require presence, not effort. It will ask you to be clear, not loud. The moment will recognize you because you will recognize yourself in it. Do not underestimate how rare this state is. Most people reach for answers outside. You found them inside first. That is why what unfolds next will feel aligned instead of overwhelming. You may notice that your intuition feels sharper now. Not dramatic. Accurate. It guides without emotion. It simply points, and you understand. Trust that. You are not being pushed forward. You are being met where you stand. Everything you needed to become has already settled into place. From here, movement happens naturally. One step at a time. With certainty. Remain present. The next moment will confirm what you already know. Stay steady. This part brings quiet confirmation. There comes a moment when everything slows just enough for meaning to land. You are in that moment now. Not because progress stopped, but because understanding has caught up with motion. Here is the truth that settles the heart. You were never meant to carry uncertainty forever. It was temporary, purposeful, and precise. It trained your discernment so that when clarity arrived, you would recognize it instantly and not mistake it for noise. That is happening now. You may notice how your thoughts feel organized without effort, how decisions feel lighter, how the urge to second-guess fades before it even forms. This is not chance. This is alignment holding steady. Nothing needs to be announced. Nothing needs to be defended. Nothing needs to be rushed. What is meant to unfold next will do so cleanly, without confusion attached. The path ahead is not demanding urgency. It is inviting presence. Pay attention to what feels honest now. Not what sounds impressive. Not what pleases others. Honest choices are the ones that last. They do not drain you. They strengthen you. You have reached a point where peace is no longer fragile. It stays even when circumstances shift. That is how you know this change is real. Remain grounded in this clarity. Let it shape how you listen, how you speak, how you move. The message has already done its work. From here, life responds. Stay present. This is where certainty becomes unshakable. What is happening inside you now is integration. Everything you understood in pieces is settling into one clear direction. That is why there is no rush left. When direction is clear, speed no longer matters. Here is the realization that locks everything into place. You are not moving toward something unknown anymore. You are moving toward something familiar at a deeper level. That familiarity is not memory. It is alignment. You may feel a quiet confidence that does not need encouragement, a sense of rightness that does not argue with itself. This is how you know you are no longer guessing. The waiting season taught you discernment. The silence taught you self-trust. The delays taught you patience without resentment. Those lessons are now active, not theoretical. This is why your energy feels contained and focused. This is why distractions fall away easily. This is why your attention feels valuable now. You are no longer available for confusion. What unfolds next will not pull you in different directions. It will gather you forward into one clear movement. That movement will feel natural, not dramatic. Let go of the idea that something must feel intense to be important. Some of the most life-shaping moments arrive gently, because they are meant to stay. You are ready for what responds to clarity instead of chaos. Remain here in this awareness. The path ahead already recognizes you. Stay calm. This part brings closure without finality. What you are standing in now is balance. Not the fragile kind that breaks under pressure, but the steady kind that holds when circumstances shift. This balance was earned, not given. Here is the truth that completes this phase. You no longer need signs to reassure you. Your clarity has become the sign. That is why your inner voice feels steady. That is why you are less influenced by urgency around you. When alignment is real, it does not compete for attention. It remains consistent. You may notice that your standards have changed. What once felt acceptable no longer fits. What once felt important feels lighter now. This is not loss of interest. This is refinement. Refinement is the final step before expansion. You are no longer available for what drains you. You are no longer confused by mixed signals. You are no longer pulled by fear of missing out. What is meant for you will meet you without negotiation. This is the point where trust becomes practical. It shapes how you choose, how you respond, how you move forward. Trust is no longer an idea. It is a habit. Do not rush this steadiness. Let it settle fully. From this place, decisions carry weight without stress. Movement feels clean. You are ready for what follows clarity. Remain here. The next step will reveal itself naturally. Remain here for this moment. This is where everything settles into confidence. You are no longer in transition. Transition already did its work. What you feel now is grounding. Grounding happens when change is no longer threatening, only natural. Here is the final understanding of this phase. You were never behind. You were becoming exact. Exact timing requires exact alignment. That alignment has been reached. That is why there is no urgency left to prove, to chase, or to rush. What is aligned moves at its own pace and arrives intact. You may notice that your focus feels valuable now. You do not give it away easily. This is not distance. This is discernment. Discernment protects what matters. You have learned to pause without fear, to choose without guilt, to let go without resistance. These are not small achievements. They are foundations. From this place, progress feels sustainable. It does not burn you out. It strengthens you as it unfolds. That is how you know this path is right. Do not look for closure in the past. Closure already happened inside you. The past no longer asks questions. It no longer pulls at you. Everything ahead is clean. Stay present with this confidence. What unfolds next will feel like continuation, not disruption. Stay centered. This is where momentum becomes effortless. What you are feeling now is continuity. Not a push forward, not a pull back, but a smooth line connecting who you were to who you are becoming. Continuity is rare. It appears when nothing inside you is fighting the next step. Here is what matters now. You are no longer negotiating with yourself. Your decisions feel clean because they come from clarity, not compromise. This is why hesitation has lost its grip. When purpose is clear, doubt has nowhere to land. You do not need to analyze every move anymore. You recognize alignment the moment it appears. Notice how your energy responds to truth. It steadies. It strengthens. It expands quietly. That is your signal. You are entering a phase where consistency matters more than intensity. Small, aligned actions will carry more power than dramatic effort. This is how lasting progress is built. You may find that your presence speaks before your words do. That is not coincidence. Presence is the result of inner agreement. When you agree with yourself, others feel it. Let go of the need to revisit old explanations. They no longer apply. The story has moved forward, and you are moving with it. Remain grounded in this ease. What unfolds next will respond to your steadiness, not your urgency. Stay here. This part completes the transformation quietly. What you are standing in now is ownership. Not ownership of outcomes, but ownership of direction. When direction is owned, nothing external can destabilize it. Here is the realization that seals everything. You no longer need reassurance to move forward. Your inner alignment has become your reference point. That is why you feel less reactive to uncertainty. That is why unexpected changes do not shake you the way they once did. Stability is no longer something you look for outside. It is something you carry. This is the shift most people wait their entire lives for without realizing it. You are no longer asking, "Is this right?" You are recognizing, "This fits." Fit is the language of alignment. From here, life responds faster. Not because you demand it, but because there is no resistance left to slow it down. Your clarity shortens the distance between intention and experience. You may notice that your boundaries feel natural now. You do not explain them. You do not defend them. You simply live them. That ease is strength. Everything that comes next will respect this clarity. You have reached the point where growth no longer feels like effort. It feels like expression. You are not becoming someone else. You are fully arriving as yourself. Remain steady in this awareness. The moment you have been preparing for is no longer ahead of you. You are already in it. Stay present. This is where everything becomes usable. What you carry now is clarity that works in real moments, not just quiet reflection. It shows up when choices appear. It steadies you when timing matters. It keeps you aligned even when outcomes are still unfolding. Here is what has truly changed. You trust your own signal. Not impulse. Not pressure. Your signal. That signal is calm, precise, and consistent. It does not argue. It does not rush. It simply points, and you move. This is why confusion no longer lingers. When something is not aligned, you feel it immediately. When something is right, you do not need reassurance. The body knows before the mind finishes thinking. You are no longer waiting for certainty to arrive from outside. You are generating it from within. That changes how life responds to you. Moments will begin to line up more cleanly. Conversations will feel direct. Opportunities will feel appropriate instead of overwhelming. This is not luck. It is resonance. Resonance attracts what matches you and filters what does not. Notice how much energy you have reclaimed by not overthinking. Notice how much space opened up by letting clarity lead. That space is where the next phase unfolds. Remain grounded in this simplicity. It is stronger than force. What continues from here will feel natural, steady, and unmistakably yours. Stay with this final stretch of understanding. This is where meaning turns into direction. What you are holding now is not a message anymore. It is a state, a steady awareness that does not fade when the words stop. This is how you know it is real. Here is the closing truth of this journey. Nothing outside of you needs to change for you to move forward. You already did the changing. That is why movement now feels possible without effort. The resistance you once felt was never the world pushing back. It was old alignment dissolving. Now that it is gone, progress feels natural. You may notice that your expectations have softened, but your standards have strengthened. You no longer chase outcomes. You choose alignment, and outcomes follow. This is the difference between effort and authority. Authority does not announce itself. It is recognized. From this point onward, your presence will speak before your plans do. Your decisions will carry weight without explanation. Your path will unfold without needing approval. Let go of the idea that something dramatic must happen next. What happens next will be correct. And correctness lasts longer than intensity. You have reached a place where trust and action coexist, where patience does not mean waiting, and movement does not mean rushing. Remain grounded in this state. What continues from here will not pull you away from yourself. It will move you deeper into who you already are. Stay right here. This is where everything completes itself. What you are experiencing now is arrival without noise. There is no announcement because none is needed. When something is true, it settles instead of shouting. Here is the final clarity. You did not come this far to wait for permission. You came this far to trust your alignment and move from it. That trust is no longer fragile. It does not depend on timing, reactions, or reassurance. It stands on what you have already lived, learned, and released. That is why it feels solid. Notice how your mind is quiet now. Notice how your heart feels steady. Notice how there is no urgency left to search. This is completion. Completion does not mean nothing more will happen. It means nothing more needs to be proven. From this place, life unfolds in response, not resistance. What is meant for you will meet you where you stand. What is not will pass without struggle. Both outcomes will feel right. You are no longer at the edge of something important. You are standing inside it. Let this understanding remain with you beyond these words. Carry it into your next choice, your next conversation, your next step. It will guide you without effort. Remain grounded. The path ahead is already aligned. Stay present for this final layer. This is where everything locks into place. What you are standing in now is forward motion without resistance. Not because the path is empty, but because you are no longer carrying what slows you down. Weight was released quietly, piece by piece, until movement felt natural again. Here is the realization that completes it. You are not waiting for life to respond anymore. Life is already responding to you. That is why moments feel intentional. That is why timing feels precise. That is why things line up without effort. This is not coincidence. This is alignment expressing itself in real time. You may notice that your confidence feels different now. It does not rise and fall. It remains steady. This is confidence rooted in clarity, not circumstance. Nothing needs to be forced from here. Nothing needs to be chased. Nothing needs to be feared. You have reached a point where trust guides action seamlessly, where understanding moves with you, not ahead of you, where the future no longer feels distant. This is not the end of something meaningful. This is the beginning of movement that stays true. Remain grounded in this certainty. What unfolds next will recognize you immediately, because you are finally fully present in your own direction. Stay with this calm. This part brings lasting clarity. What you are feeling now is direction settling into habit. Not a sudden realization, but a steady way of moving through moments without losing yourself. This is what integration looks like when it is complete. Here is the truth that makes everything sustainable. You no longer need motivation to move forward. Alignment has replaced it. Motivation rises and falls. Alignment stays. That is why your actions feel quieter now, but more effective. You are not pushing against life. You are moving with it. Notice how your attention feels deliberate. You choose where it goes. You choose what deserves energy. This is not control. This is respect for yourself. Respect changes outcomes. From here, progress will feel subtle but consistent. Small steps will create lasting momentum. You will not need to announce growth. Others will feel it without explanation. You have learned how to listen without reacting, how to move without rushing, how to pause without fear. These skills will guide you long after this moment passes. Nothing needs to be added now. Nothing needs to be removed. Everything is in place. Remain grounded in this steadiness. What continues from here will unfold naturally, with clarity leading every step.